We've had a wonderful time at the church camp. We were looking at fathering and really how to strengthen and be appreciative of the family relationships that we have at home. And today we continue in that vein because this is a day where we celebrate Father's Day. And you know, the gifts that you will collect later on, I hope you will choose wisely. I know the fathers would be choosing the potato chips because this is excellent to go with all the World Cup games that's happening right now. But your wives will probably tell you, don't choose that because it adds salt to your diet. You know, it makes you fat and it adds cholesterol and all that. So choose wisely. Don't let this be a point of family tension. All right, this is Father's Day and it's celebratory, the gift. All right, church, let's bow our heads and we seek the Lord's blessings for this session. Father God, we thank you for the fathers you've given us in our midst. Thank you, Father, for the blessed ties that exist within the families. We ask, O Lord, that you give us ears that hear, eyes that see, and hearts, O Lord, that will absorb and obey all that you are teaching us today. Lord, that we may quicken our steps to do all that you want us to do and be humble before your word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, church, I was asked by the church office, what would I like for my topic today? And this is what I chose, all right? I am your father. Okay, for those of you who are much younger than I am, you are looking at the figure which has recently again become a little bit fashionable. But I can tell you 30 years ago, when this guy first appeared on our screens and on our movie screens and theaters, he was the biggest and baddest guy in the entire galaxy, all right? This guy is Darth Vader. And there is this scene, okay, where he said these famous words. I'd like you to now just sit back. This is purely for entertainment value, all right? It's free of charge. We hope we are not breaching any copyright laws over here, but this famous scene from this Star Wars movie. All right, let's just watch it.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did. There is no escape. Don't make me destroy you. Luke, you do not yet realize your importance. You have only begun to discover your power. Join me, and I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
I'll never join you!
If you only knew the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough! He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
No. That's not true. That's impossible!
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
All right, I know some of you are laughing, right? Because you may not have watched, this is the original scene, okay? Many of you may have watched is the spoof on this, all right? The Cantonese and the Hokkien version, all right? When Darth Vader speaks in Hokkien, it's really, really very funny, okay? You know these words, for I am your father. And really, church, I think if we just take a step back and maybe just forget about the funny side of things. This really wasn't funny when it was first screened. I can tell you, it drew gasps from the audience because the last thing we found out, right, was that Darth Vader was the father of Luke Skywalker. I mean, this is the baddest guy. Luke Skywalker was a young, brave warrior who was going to free the galaxy from Darth Vader. So how do you have the young hero who's a son of the bad guy? But that's how it turned out. But we take a step back from it. Really, in our homes, and in our family relationships back home, many times, for many of us as fathers, when we want our children to do something and they don't want to do it, you know, don't we actually draw the line and say, look here, young man, young lady, I don't allow you to do that. Oh, why is that, Dad? Because I'm your father. And then the look on the face, no, I'm not going to do that. It's the same thing, it's the same scene that is played out so many times. Sometimes it's said, sometimes it's not said. But sometimes we look at our children and say, nope, you're not going to that party. Nope, you are not taking that job. Why? Because I am your father. And then the look that comes back, no. All right, it's the same thing. The role of a father, brothers and sisters, is a tough and tricky one to do. And the world is slowly warming up to acknowledge and to thank fathers, all right, for this role. And that is why, today we celebrate Father's Day. And, all the major countries in the world, in fact, today celebrate Father's Day. The major countries, the big countries, and we're talking about these are really the important countries, right? Like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Singapore. Since we've hosted the Trump Team Summit, we are now an important major country in the world. Okay, we all celebrate it on the third Sunday of June, and really to honor fathers and to thank the fathers for what they do. And in preparation for this message, I just went to the internet quickly and to see how to let's say the US, how do people acknowledge their fathers? And maybe I could pick up an inspiring story or two. And this is what I found, 20 last-minute gifts for Father's Day. You can buy a measuring tape. You can buy a beer cooler with an ice stick in the center to keep the beer cool. You can buy a smartphone-controlled paper airplane for your fathers. Look at the second paragraph. Full instructions are included. And if you buy two, you can race against each other. So your father is bored, not doing anything. You can buy in two of this. You can race one against the other. And that beats sitting indoors playing board games with the rest of the family. All right. So these are some of the ideas that people have, which I think totally defeats the whole idea of trying to integrate the father into the family. Buy him a Ferrari experience. Brothers and sisters, these are some of the suggestions. Those of you who really want to do something exciting for your fathers, you could go into the internet, get some of these ideas. But what we are looking at today, brothers and sisters, is how to honor, how to better appreciate, how to once in a while really thank God for the fathers in our midst. And I want to try to look at this from three perspectives. Firstly, from the perspective of a father, how I can maybe help play my role better. But I'm going to try to be gentle, right, to this, because this is a day to honor fathers. So I'm not going to give fathers more stress, all right, in telling you, you should have done this and you could have done that. But maybe from the father's perspective, what are the one or two things that we can be a bit more mindful of and try to save ourselves some of the hassles. There's this story about a new village chief, and came into this village. And one of the things he hear about this village, and people are warning him, is that, all the men in your village, okay, are all afraid of their wives. So he said, like that, man, so he decided one day to really find out if this is true. So he called the entire village together and told all the villagers, look, I want you to do something, all right? I want all the men to come out. But those of the men who are afraid of their wives, can you come out to the right? And those who are not afraid of your wives, you stand on the left. So one by one, the men came out and they all went to stand on the right. So this chief is thinking, wow, man, the rumor is true. But one fella came out and stood on the left. So he said, wow, this one got hope. So he went to this man and said, tell me, what's the difference between you and them? Then the man says, actually, I don't know what the difference is. My wife asked me to stand on the left. So, perspective of the father, is it just to make sure that you listen to everything that the wife tells you to do? Okay, the mother's perspective and the children's perspective. Let's look first at the father's perspective. And the father's perspective can be seen again with two insights. One, with the insights of with his wife in mind. And how does he help himself become a better father, all right, or a better husband with the help of the wife? And from here, church, I think one of the great advice to marriages is given in Proverbs 31. And Proverbs 31 is the advice which the mother of this king, King Lemuel, gave to him. This is what she taught him. In two portions, in the first portion of the 31 verses in Proverbs 31, verses 1 to 9, is how to succeed as a king. What you should do, all right, to help you be a good king. And verses 10 to 31, this 21, 22 verses, on basically how to succeed, full stop, as a king, as a son, as a husband, as a father. How do you succeed, full stop? All right, so this is the first 9 verses. Let's all read it together, all right? The word of the Lord. Read it together with me. The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of those who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. So this first 9 verses, look, my son, you are the answer to all my prayers. Right? You are the son of my womb. Those are the loving words of a mother to her son. I want you to do well as a king, but this is what you must do. Remember, 1, don't go after women who ruin kings. Don't spend your strength on them. Keep yourself. Keep your manhood. Keep your physical strength. Keep it for the woman who deserves it. All right? 1, beware the women, the lure of women. 2, beware the lure of drinks and wine. That's for those who are weak. Those who are troubled, they need to drink to forget. But you are a king. You can't do that. You need to be able to speak up for those who cannot speak, to give justice for those who have no justice. So you need a clear mind and you need courage. So in essence, for these 9 verses, her advice can be summed up in these 2 pictures. 1, no BMW. BMW is what? Bring more women, bring more wine. All right? Don't bring more women, don't bring more wine. Okay? Don't have that. 2, no kia, no scared. All right? Don't be afraid to speak up for those who cannot speak. Don't be afraid, all right, to give justice to those who need justice. You are the king. We are kings, brothers and sisters. We stand up for what is right. If we see something is not right, if we see the commands and the precepts of God being trodden, being cast aside, people treated unfairly and shoddily, we speak up. We speak for those who cannot speak and give justice for those who lack it and those who are oppressed. And that's what we do. First 9 verses. Now, the next 20 verses. This is the other part of the advice. What many of us consider the real advice. Okay? Not interested to succeed as a king. I want to know how I can succeed as a man. How I can succeed, full stop. And this is what she says. First, a wife of noble character, who can find? Who can find this woman? You go and try to mine this woman, go and find out where she is. Because she is worth far more than rubies or whatever is important, right? Diamonds, what else? iPhones, all right? She's worth far more than them. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm. This woman, she is not going to tear you down. This woman, she's not going to subtract or divide you. She will add to you. She will multiply what you have, right? She will bring you good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She's like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. I told this as previous services. In the 21st century, she go and check, Giant in Bedok, very good. Tomatoes today, very cheap. But Giant in Bedok, the chicken is very expensive. The Woodlands, the Giant, chicken very cheap. The cold storage, in Jurong, even cheaper, for vegetables. So she will bring, all right, from Jurong, from cold storage, from afar. She'll bring all this, okay, her food from afar. She gets up while it's still at night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. She's entrepreneur, all right. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She buys a field, she plants a vineyard, she sets out her work vigorously, her arms are strong for her task. How many of you looking for a wife, go and check her arms strong or not? See whether it's as strong as yours. She sees that her trading is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She's the last to sleep. In her hand, she holds a distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She can knit, she can sew, all right? She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. She's more than enough for the household. She's got more than enough. She can feed those who are outside the household and those who are poor and needy. And when it knows she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. Everybody is safe inside the house. She makes coverings for her bed. She's clothed in fine linen and purple. Not just something that you can find, no nameless, brandless, no anything that covers my family, I'm happy. This is in fine linen, man. This is what the 2,000 thread Egyptian cotton, don't know what, linen, smooth as silk. And in purple, this is the color of royalties. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. The husband, wow, he's a stylo Milo, man. This is the Ronaldo. He is the chief scorer. Everybody wants to be near him. He sits out there, with position. But he doesn't know, or does he know, right, that he may be the scorer of the goal. Who is the midfielder? Who is the defender? Who is the goalkeeper? Who is the coach? Who brings all the water bottles, all right, to make sure the players are all washed up and properly refreshed? It's her. She does all of these things. So he will share the glory with her. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. The husband can come back and say, what? Die. I do not know. No, here we're closing down the plant in California. We're closing the plant down in China. Don't know when it's going to spread to Singapore. Don't know whether my job is safe or not. She laughs. So what? What's the problem? The Lord is with us. Don't worry. We're going to see through this, right? She speaks with wisdom, faithful instruction in her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise. The children take some sort of activity. The children arise with pride and calls her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many men do noble things, but you, this noble woman of noble character, surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord, brothers and sisters, is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. This is what they call an acrostic psalm or praise. It is a verse which starts with a successive alphabet of the Jewish alphabet. It is a synchronized, harmonious piece of praise to this noble woman, this praiseworthy woman. But how to find such a woman? How to find such a woman? A wife of noble character. Who can find? How can find? Where can find such a woman? You see, I think, firstly, brothers and sisters, Lemuel's mother is not telling him, son, before you get married, go and look for such a wife. Find such a wife and then marry her. Sometimes the husbands, when we had it enough with our wives, we feel like, which is that passage? Which is the passage? Proverbs? Yeah. Got it. Proverbs 31. We take Proverbs 31, we're going to show our wives, hey, can you please be a bit more like that? Can you? You're right? Sometimes do that. But I think Lemuel's mother is not telling Lemuel, go and find a woman who could be like that. Because this woman is not a married woman. All right? I mean, you're not going to find a married woman, right? But this woman already has a husband at the city gates. This woman has got strong arms. All right? She's got fuse, This woman, I think Lemuel's mother is telling him, go and find a wife and help make her into such a woman. That means don't find such a woman to be your wife, but make sure that your wife turns out to be such a woman, so that together you can make the family work. So brothers and sisters, I think it is not Siri, It is not going out there, and I find one woman, I go interview. I used to interview a secretary, and then I asked, can you type? Yes, I can type. You smile. Can you take shorthand? Yes, I can take shorthand. Make coffee? Yes, everything I can. So I asked my colleague, I said, a bit strange. Can you check up what was her former job? Oh, she was a stewardess. So everything with a smile, all right, which is very nice. But sometimes, as a wife, no, you don't want someone to just do all your chores and the things that you don't want to do. Neither do you want a Lego, that, hey, you don't come, I want you to have absolutely no ideas on your own about marriage. All your ideas about marriage, my idea. I tell you what to cook, I tell you what to do, what time you sleep, what time you wake up and all that. You are my Lego wife. No. I think what Lemuel's mother means, a partnership together. together, you help each other. Not I take up Proverbs 31 and I show my wife, hey, can you please be more this woman? But my wife looks at Proverbs 31, or our sisters here look at Proverbs 31. I hope I can get there. And the brother says, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to help you get there. Because when you get there, I become Ronaldo, you know. Right? I'll be at the city gates. I don't have to jaga the house. Because I know you jaga the house. I know you jaga my kids. Right? I know you will bring my family wealth, keep it here, and share it around. I know that I have a full confidence in you. And I know what? You have my back. Because you wish me good and not harm all the days of your life. And then the Lord will teach me and open my eyes to say, this is a woman who fears the Lord and is to be praised. And then I will learn to praise you together with my children. Because in Genesis 2:20, it says here that God gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky and all the wild animals. But to Adam, no suitable helper was formed. So God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, while the man was at peace, God took one of the man's ribs and closed up the space with flesh. Then the Lord made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. And the man said, this is now the bone of my bones, the closest of all my bones, the flesh of my flesh, the closest of all my flesh. And she shall be called man, right? She will be called woman, okay? For she was taken out of man. And that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. You know, brothers and sisters, God chose from a man's bone, a part of man, took it out of him, made this man incomplete, and then fashioned a woman out of that bone and gave it back to man, that the man may be complete. You know, when we look at the word helper, culturally we think, oh, helper means, okay lah, make sure you cook a nice meal for me, wash my clothes, every morning, just make sure there's breakfast there, please don't give me problem, in the evening come back, please make sure, that my dinner is there and it's hot and all that. We think of a helper as a contractual helper, as a helper who helps us do things that we don't want to do, as a helper to help us do things we cannot do. But this helper here is in the sense of making the man complete. It is to make us complete. We need a helper, sisters, that will make us complete. So it's a partnership. You see, if God had really just wanted to make Eve and to give to Adam, God could have used anything to make Eve. He could have made Eve in the same way as God made Adam, which is from the dust of the earth, fashioned them into a man and breathed life into that man, and breathed life into Eve, and given Eve to Adam. Or if, like some of us think, that the wives adorn and beautify our marriages and our families, and she just needs to be someone nice to look at, then God could have chosen any of the flowers in the garden, any of the beautiful flowers. God could have taken out these flowers, fashioned them into Eve, and breathed life. But God chose to take from Adam, made him incomplete, and gave the wife back to him, that he may be complete. And which suggests to me, brothers and sisters, that this is a partnership. The husband and wife has to work together to fashion and to create a family with which to enjoy. This thing about family recently was a point that was driven home to me. And God chose my little dog, Coco, to bring this to our attention just about 2 months ago. And we were going on a short trip, my wife and I, to Japan. It was just a few days, and when we arrived in Japan, within a couple of days, the very next day, in fact, we received news that the dog wasn't well, and she was not eating and completely listless and no energy. And we called up and called back home, and they said that, took her to the vet, and the vet says that she's got pancreatitis, infection of the pancreas. How did she get pancreatitis? My goodness, she was okay the day we left, So blood test results came back, and we were getting anxious because she was not running around, and she had to be admitted to the hospital, and there I started sending out the blood test results, even to our brother Chun Mian. And I called Chun Mian and I said, hey Chun Mian, I know you look after human beings, all right? but I got my little dog, can you just take a look at the blood test results? And he says, I look at it, I think it's okay. I said, she's going to the hospital, for goodness sakes. What do you mean okay, So anyway, to cut long story short, we flew back, And when we went to see the dog at the hospital, and at first she was listless and didn't quite show any enthusiasm, but an hour later, she woke up suddenly, recognized our voices. She was just jumping up and down in a cage in the hospital. And my wife says, look, she recognized us. She's okay. Called the vet. The vet says, yeah, she's okay now. So we brought her home. And then she grew from strength to strength and was all right. A month later, that was a month ago from today, a month ago, and we this time went on a longer trip. We went on a cruise. On the first day of the cruise, we arrived, we called back, and my wife decided to find out a little bit more about how little Coco was doing. And my sister-in-law answered the phone and says, oh dear, I don't know how to tell you this. What do you mean? We're now at the vet. Why are you at the vet again? He says, yeah, she was peeing all over the house and she can't move, she didn't want to move. Oh dear, what's happened? Long story short, she's got slip disc. The vet told us, anyway, never mind, you just enjoy your holiday over there. She's okay, We'll just put her in a jacket. Don't run around too much, but she'll be fine, all right? So we came back and then scheduled, she said, it's got to see me in 1 month's time. The 1 month to see the vet again was yesterday. So yesterday, at 12 o'clock, we brought little Coco to see the vet. And he says, oh, she's fine. She's just got to be on this jacket a little bit more. Please, no jumping around and all that, restrain her movements. So I asked the vet, and this vet is quite a maverick kind of fella. I say, hey, what's the story with my dog, Is it separation anxiety or what? Both times, first day after we leave, she felt sick, And the vet says, you see, many people don't realize this. The dog is a member of the family. And these little dogs, this breed, they get stressed very easily. So she gets stressed. When the dog gets stressed, just like, ordinary people, when you get stressed, your immunity goes down. All right? So all these problems come out. The incontinence, the don't want to eat, the sadness, the pancreatitis also. Infections will come. Oh, you say, oh dear, does it mean we can't travel? Hey, you can travel. You just have to know that the dog is a member of your family. You take care of every member of the family as you do the dog. Okay? So what do? He says, well, simple. All right, aromatherapy. Next time before you leave, go to a shop, buy some aromatherapy, put it on both sides of the cheeks. You can smell it. She's calm. Then you go. All right? And it reminds me, God takes a little dog to remind us that sometimes there's little things in the family life we don't know. We don't care. But brothers and sisters, your children care. When you leave them alone, when you think that you can be absent and not be around, and they don't mind, they suffer all kinds of stress, which they may resort to other forms of behavior to compensate. And we need to be careful. And it reminds us, as husbands and wives, as fathers and mothers, we play this role of a partnership to strengthen that as much as possible for the sake of the other members of the family. And that's our children. So wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the church, the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so should also wives submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any blemish, but holy and blameless. One of the church members yesterday was at my place when we had the council and cell pastors prayer meeting, and we were sharing about this verse. And he says that one of the things that he's learned over the years, over the past 8 or 9 years or so, one tangible difference it makes is that everything about his wife, when it comes to loving her or struggling to love her in a particular area, bring it before the Lord in prayer. Bring it before the Lord in prayer. Pray for your wife. Pray for the area which you are struggling. Don't try to do it on your own strength. It might make it even more difficult or make it even more painful. Bring it before the Lord in prayer. And for him, it works. It works all the time, the last 8 or 9 years. Now, if there's anything which I just want to discuss with the brothers here this morning, is beware the dangers of the romantic doldrums. All right? This is what James Dobson warns about. Now, the doldrums, okay, is a part of the oceans near the equator where we are all at. Right? In the old days, ships go by sails, right? When the winds come, they move. Of course, they are most worried when the ships enter into storms. Okay, so when you get into the Atlantic or the Pacific, the big oceans, right, the ships get tossed about by the waves and the storms. So when the sailors pass through the storms and when they reach the equator, they reach a point where there are no winds. And they're very happy because they say, no more storms, we are safe. Okay, but that's another problem. They reach a place where later on, the mariners and the sailors will call the equatorial doldrums. All right, where there's no wind at all. What happens? Your ship is not going to move. And if you're not prepared for that, you are going to be marooned there for days, for weeks, or for months. If you're marooned there for months, you are finished. The storm didn't kill you. The doldrums kills you. Because there's absolutely no wind, no movement. So later on, the mariners know about it. When you pass the storms, you might get into the doldrums. When you get in the doldrums, you've got to be prepared. Out comes the oars. Out comes the training. Out comes every man knowing how to row, when to row, how to use your energies, how to study the tides, and get out of the doldrums. Catch the wind. Up goes the sails, and then you get out of the doldrums. The same for your marriages. He says that you go through the storms of your life. You think the financial crisis is over, the children crisis is over, the big adultery scare is over. You think now it's safe. Oh, you go to your handphones every day. All right, you look at each other, you are just trying to have a truce. You don't disturb me, I don't disturb you. We have what we call the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. All right, you don't come in here, I don't go in there. This is the romantic doldrums. Nothing happens. The storms did not kill the marriage, but the doldrums may. So think of interesting things to do, the romantic things to do together. Tonight, dear, 7 o'clock, France is playing Australia. What a wonderful game. I got this can of potato chips from BBTC. Shall we watch it together? Right? If your wife has a better idea, listen to her. Okay? But these are the things you have to watch out for. Children, 1 Thessalonians 2, 11 and 12. And Deuteronomy 1:31. These are two of my favorite images, brothers and sisters. One, all right, of encouraging, comforting, and urging our children. We adopt what we call a no-knock policy. Don't go and knock your children while they're down. Doesn't mean we cannot scold them, but don't knock them while they're down. Don't go and say that, don't be like your brother next time. Stupid, isn't it? Don't want to study for the exam, look at what is now. All right, quietly choose a time, scold him, admonish him, but the encouragement here, encouraging, comforting, and then urging him to live lives worthy for God. Deuteronomy 1:31 talks about here in the wilderness, there you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a father carries his son. All the way you went until you reached this place. Right? This image of a father carrying a son. Oh, what a wonderful privilege it is. To be able to carry your child. Of course, we know about this in a sense, physically. All right? Disneyland, Daddy, can you please carry me? I want to see Mickey Mouse. I cannot see Mickey Mouse. I want to see Ariel the princess. I cannot see too many people in front. So you carry your daughter, you carry your son. All right? So that they can see better. Daddy, I want to see the fireworks. Too many people in front of me. And Daddy carries you. But here we are talking about caring for a journey. From the wilderness, a place that, we all don't want to be at. Don't know where we are going. But he carries him. And he carried you as a father with his son all the way until you reach this place. The beauty of this imagery is this. You start the journey with your father. And because he carries you, you end that journey with him. You go with him. Your son and your daughter comes with you when you carry them. You will not end up in a different place because he's on your back or she's on your back. And they enjoy the view. And best of all, as a child, if I'm being carried, I don't use my strength. I borrow your strength. But you carry me, and I enjoy the view. That's why this song, You Raise Me Up, is such a beautiful and wonderful song. The writer wrote it in a moment of inspiration, because you place me on your shoulders. I'm strong when I'm on your shoulders. And you raise me up to more than I can be. That's what parents do. That's what fathers do. I carry you out of the wilderness, and I bring you to where I want to be. But it's a privilege, brothers and sisters. We got to be ready. We got to be ready to carry that out. And one of the roles that we can play, brothers and sisters, is a role as a pilot. Because if you look at these two verses here, Proverbs 6:23, it says, start off the children on the way they should go. Even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Ephesians 6:4 says, fathers, do not exasperate your children. We'll come back to that in a short while. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And what is training? What is instruction? Go listen to a message by John Piper on this verse. Powerful. And he says that when you talk about instruction, you talk about more than just imparting knowledge. You talk about warning them. Because you have been on this journey. You have seen the pitfalls. You know where the dangers are. You are warning them. These are the dangers. Brothers and sisters, that's the role we can play. Warning. We can be a pilot. I was on a cruise recently, this huge, magnificent boat. You know, it cuts through water like nothing, like knife through a butter. 20 decks tall, 5,000, 6,000 people inside there. But there was once when this vessel comes into harbor, one particular harbor, he has to make a 360-degree sharp turn. Very little space in front and behind the two mountains, all right, within this fjord. He has to make this 360-degree turn so that the ship could come up again later on. This master, I know, has a guide on board. The guide is the pilot. The pilot has done this 1,000 times. He knows how to bring this ship into this harbor. He knows how to bring it out. You see, our children will exceed us one day. My daughter, 4 years ago, started correcting my grammar and started telling me how to draft letters. Right? And I know one day, the day will come, where she will far exceed me, and our children far exceed us in the things that we do. In terms of size, they will far outgrow us. But when they come into harbor, they will come into a place where they've never been before. And we want them to call us as their pilot, not somebody else. And says, Mom, Dad, I'm coming home into this port, and I need your help. And that's where we carry them, brothers and sisters. We've got to be ready to earn that privilege. And not something like this. These headlines came out 2 days ago in the Straits Times. Man hit son, 9, with hanger, kicked him when he did not do homework answers. Leave ourselves, all right, the position, the privilege, not just to be the enforcer or the executioner, but brothers and sisters, the encourager and the pilot. In the camp, we are told the real man is a father. The father is a real man. And this real man courageously stands by his conviction, brings heaven home, makes others better. This father will raise the bar. Leave him to be the one who sees more than the immediate. And that in the goodness of his heart, in the bigness of his heart, he will make others at home better as well. He takes up and he acts on responsibilities. He rejects passivity and he injects energy. He sets the temperature at home. When he comes back and when he's upbeat, people will be upbeat. There is something that someone in every setting, in every home, can do to change the mood and the temperature at home. All right, and maybe we'll just look at this video. Those of us, guys, in the camp, we saw something like this. All right, like us all, the rest of us, this is quite interesting. Just take a look at this for just the next minute.
Y me llama el cocinero. Risita, ¿qué? Ve por la paellera. Venga, que las 2 de la tarde ya están aquí. Miren, bañador, en las chanclas. Todo despeinado porque no me dio tiempo nada ponerme las chanclas y el bañador. Voy a la playa, había subido la marea. ¿Y tú? Había subido la marea y encontré una paella. Y la encontré porque estaba la paellera agarrada, metida entre las piedras de Chipiona, del faro. Y cuando entro en el restaurante me ve el cocinero con una paellera y a ver solamente paellera. ¡Ándale, mira dónde llega el agua!
Okay, I think some of you have seen this snippet before. It's been spoofed many times, all right, into all kinds of languages, into all kinds of contexts. And as I was looking around the hall very quickly, casting a few glances, all right, at the reaction of all of you as you watch this video. Most of you, your faces will break into a smile and to follow the laughter of this hilarious newscaster here. Although we don't understand a single word of what he just said, all right? But you know it's just something funny, and we just want to mirror his smiles on his face. Some of you are looking more stressed out, looking at this, trying to make head or tail of this. But the rest of us, when you see something funny, when you see a reaction, a face like that, a smile like that, you don't understand what's going on. But there are neurons, nerves in our faces and in our body, which is called the mirror neurons. They basically just mirror what you have just seen. It's like Uncle Jeff when he comes up here and he tells us something, makes an announcement and tells us something. Already just looking at him and his smile, you already break into that smile. You're just ready, just quick, Uncle Jeff, say something funny. The moment he says something even remotely funny, you burst up laughing, all right? That's the mirror neuron response. And church, in very much the same way, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Fathers, do not provoke your children. What the father does, the children sees and follows. When the father is driving and a car cuts in front of him and he speeds out after the car and he curses the driver and he shows 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 1 finger is clenched fist or whatever it is, what do you think the child will do the next time he drives? If you go into a restaurant and you find a strand of hair, you call the captain and you lecture him on cleanliness and responsibility and on saving the world and all that, all right, for 2 minutes, insisting on your rights, then finally asking for $50 gift voucher, all right, the next time you visit, for use the next time you visit the restaurant. What do you think? What do you think is the mirror neuron response that you are cultivating on your children? So we teach our children not to provoke them, not to give them cynicism, not to get them to think that the world owes them anything. But if we begin to teach them in the ways of the optimism and of the victory and the expectation of the love of God, then it's different. So fathers, be careful. Now, from the wife's perspective, the wife is my mirror. And I can think of this, I'm reminded of this story, the story of Peter Foster. And we all do not know who he is. But this is a story of this Royal Air Force pilot in one of Philip Yancey's book. And Philip Yancey wrote this book in his image together with Paul Brand, who is a military surgeon. And Paul Brand says that in World War II, the RAF, the Royal Air Force pilots, many of them were shot down, but some of them survived. Those who survived were burnt beyond their recognition. So they had 2 hospitals set up to really do reconstructive surgery. Reconstructive surgery is not like today in South Korea, already make you very pretty, make you even prettier. Handsome, make you even more handsome. That one is to give you back your skin. Give you back your skin, not so that you look as good as you did before, but so that you have a layer of skin to keep out the germs, right? So that you can live your life. So for many of this, it's just a piece of flesh, a piece of skin stuck over the areas where it was previous the skin had burned away. And of course, all of them were treated like kings and treated like heroes because they were heroes. They fought and risked their lives, placed their lives on the line for the United Kingdom. But there's a day when the war ended and the wives and the girlfriends are now coming back to receive them. No, those days, no Skype, no photographs that you can send by WhatsApp. Nobody could see how you look like. They began to get nervous. They began to see the doctors and say, "Doctors, can you cut away this piece of flesh? Can you give me this eyelid? Can you tuck away the chin? Can you give me a bigger, tuck up the lip and all that?" And the doctors realized that these fellas are scared. They are nervous. They are not quite sure how their wives would accept them or reject them. The lucky ones get accepted by the wives. The less fortunate ones, the wives slowly leave them. The girlfriends slowly leave them. And many of their lives ended in disaster. They could face the war, but they could not face the rejection of their loved ones. Peter Foster says that this same tension came to him, and he asked his girlfriend, "Will you still marry me?" And she looked at him and says, "The only thing that's changed about you is a few millimeters of your skin." And Peter Foster says that she became my mirror. She gave me a new image. Even now, when I look at her, she gives me that warm, loving smile and tells me that I'm okay. I'm okay. Look, these are Royal Air Force men. They will fly into Nazi Germany. They will face the bombs, the shells, the enemy. They know they're going to give their lives. Brave enough to do that, but not brave enough to find out what their wives would tell of them. Sisters, I can tell you this. Many of your husbands are not having a good time outside. It's a tough world. But I think we all have enough courage to go through that. But it's tough coming back. When you feel that, I think I may have done okay outside, but I'm not okay at home. So Peter Foster says that my wife became my mirror. And when I look at her, we look at ourselves in the mirror, oh, hair is fine today, tie looks okay, matches with the shirt and the pants, right? But our wives will cause us to look in a different light. It is the wife's okay that is important. So wives, we are to love. Husbands to love our wives. Wives to respect our husbands. Okay, we've done all that. A man may first fall in love with a woman whose looks are gorgeous to him, but he will more likely remain in love with a woman whose looks tell him he's gorgeous or he's okay to her. You play a big, important role. The wife is the husband's cheerleader. Whether your husband or whether your children's father is a hero or a bum, very much depends on you. You have a great role to play. I think all mothers can do with a strong father figure, the influence of a strong father figure at home. You are the primary filter as to how your children sees their father, whether they see him as a hero or whether they see him as a bum. And I can tell you this, that you will be much better off with a strong father figure. And if you can help contribute to that and help fortify and foster that, that will be good. If you can try to work on the weaknesses of your husband and make them better, try to recognize he has faults and try to help him overcome those faults. Church, sisters, I think that is what love is. Love that is patient, that is kind, does not envy, does not boast, is not proud, does not dishonor, is not self-seeking, is not easily angered. Sometimes angered, not easily angered. Sometimes very badly angered, but not easily angered. Keep no record of wrongs, does not delight in evil, rejoices in the truth. He always protects. He always trusts. Knowing that, look, sometimes I do not know why this crazy husband keeps on doing this. But maybe he's not doing this in order to irritate you. Maybe he's doing this for some other reason. Trust him. Give him the benefit of a doubt. Always hopes. Always perseveres. This love never fails. A woman who fears the Lord. This is such a woman. She is to be praised. Now, the children's perspective. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Obey, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. What does it mean to honor? I mean, is it to give one of those things, the beer cooler, get him a Ferrari and drive around for a day? I mean, I think that's helpful if a father really has no arthritis and get into a Ferrari and get out of it without any problem or splitting his pants, that's okay, But honor his father and your father and mother. Honor, in Exodus, in the commandments, honor comes from the Hebrew word kabad, and it means to give weight. Give weight to your father and your mother. Your father and your mother is not a makeshift. It's not a pushover. It's not a punching bag. My day is bad today. I've got lousy grades. My football team got knocked out. My school team, we finished last in the relay. I'm in a bad mood. That is all your fault. You told me not to do this. You told me I cannot handle this. I flunked my exams today. My assignment got a D. That is all your fault. There's no proper English spoken in this home. Unlike my friends, not that. Your dad is not a punching bag. You try to give weight to the role that your father is playing, and the role that your father is playing. Honor by giving weight. In Ephesians chapter 6, the Greek word, is the word from which words like revere and reverent. To respect, to revere, to be reverent of your father, to give value to the role that he's playing, to the responsibilities that he's shouldering. That's honoring. That's honoring, brothers and sisters. Do not despise the efforts of your father. Those of you who are older, you're beginning to understand a little bit more what your fathers went through. Despise instead instant gratification. Right? James Dobson talks about this. He says, hold back certain things. There's no point giving this to everything to your children. Because passion and need and satisfaction must all come together. For instance, you offer a glass of water to a man dying of thirst. If he doesn't drink that glass of water, he will die of thirst. How much do you think this glass of water is worth to him? It's worth to him everything that he's worth. He will tell you, I've got $1 million, take the $1 million, I'll drink this. I will live and I'll make another $1 million for myself. But if you give this same glass of water to someone who just came out of a restaurant, he's just had the best meal in his life. You give him a glass of water, he says, no, it's okay, I don't need it, throw it away. It's valueless. You give a tricycle to a kid who cannot walk yet, a bicycle to someone who cannot ride. You give diamond rings and rubies to a 10-year-old kid. Whatever for. I've got a friend, 9-year-old daughter, dotes on her. Her mess bags. He buys her mess bags for a 9-year-old daughter whenever he travels. When this girl reaches 19, 20, 21 years old, what is she going to work for? You know, there is some good in materialistic ambition sometimes, because it causes our children to dream, to think, to work towards that goal and to be rewarded. And sometimes it's very sad that a person reaches a relatively young age of his or her life and there is nothing more to aim for. Nothing more, because I got everything already by the time I was 12. Right? So children, when your parents hold things back from you sometimes, to deny you the instant gratification, it is not always bad. Very few fathers set out with the goal to fail as fathers. Most of us want to make a good job of it. We are just quite blur. We are not quite prepared for it. We just go about, doing whatever the task is in front of us. Sometimes we do well, sometimes we don't. Because it is tough. It is tough, young people. Being a father, being a provider, a guardian, the house cheerleader, the cockroach exterminator, the educationist, the mediator, the security guard, all at once. Very difficult to do all this well. So your father can be a pilot in your life. You are the captain of your life, the master of your own career. Your career will take you to places that your parents cannot even imagine and do not know where you're going to. But there will be times in your life where you will reach harbor, brothers and sisters. You will reach places that you do not know how to navigate. Invite your fathers in to guide you in to safe harbor, to bring you in to the safe place. For that, you need teamwork. For that, you will know that he's dependable. For that, you will know that he has authority and that he has the expertise. Proverbs 13:1, a wise man heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker does not respond to rebukes. Worship team, can you please come up? In conclusion, church, these 4 verses. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives. And I love the second part of it. Do not be harsh with them. I think this is something which we struggle. We can say, oh, I love my wives. But with the words that come up, right? Don't be harsh. Learn to hold back and to speak peaceably. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children. There's something about this. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Fathers, do not provoke your children. Fathers, do not embitter your children. It's not fathers and mothers do not exasperate. Only fathers. The warning is to fathers. The harshness. How quick we are to jump up and to shout and to yell. Right? Do not embitter our children, or they will become discouraged. Therefore, be imitators of God. All of us, fathers, mothers, children, we all play a role here somehow. Be imitators of God as dear children. I remember, in closing, this story. And the story is told to this church about this young man who woke up one morning. And he says, I think, Lord, today, I want to learn to be like Jesus in all that I do. Could you teach me to be like Jesus in how I think, how I act, and how I talk? And with that, he got himself ready. He was feeling the spring, the steps. He rushed out of his house. He ran to the train station. He ran up the steps, he turned around the corner, and he smashed headlong right into this pushcart. Blind fruit seller selling apples and oranges. Sprayed all the apples and oranges all over the train platform. And he says to himself, oh no, now I've got to go and pick up all this. And that moment he remembered the prayer that he just said that morning. Lord, teach me to be like Jesus. And so he sucked in his breath. He went down on his knees and his hands, and he picked up every single apple and orange and placed them back on the fruit cart. And as he was about to leave, this blind fruit seller caught hold of his hand and asked him, young man, are you Jesus? You see, in our daily lives and in our homes, brothers and sisters, we want to be like Jesus. We tell the Lord, Lord, make me a father in this house as an imitator of God. But we come back home, so much noise, apples and oranges all over the place. Wife is yelling at us, children are complaining. Wives, you want to be the godly woman, you want to be the imitator of God. But this crazy husband of mine, still messing around with his work, still not doing the thing I asked him to do. The children are still screaming their heads off. Kids, your cell leader tells you, today be like Jesus, be an imitator of God. You come back, apples and oranges all over the place. My father is still a bum. My mother is still nagging and screaming at the top of her voice. Nothing works in this household. We suck in our breath. We learn to pick up the pieces one at a time. One at a time. Put them back at the cart. And then brothers, when your children then, as you're about to go, say, hey dad, you're trying to be like Jesus, right? That would be the best Father's Day gift. When you try to be an imitator of God.